Alright, so today we are back to work on the shop truck, the dumper. This is going to be my personal truck, so I want to build it in a way that's going to make the most sense for me. So what we got going on today, I'm going to start off with the alternator. We need to get that figured out because obviously we need to run an alternator, and I'm not going to be running all the accessories that were on the motor, so we got to get that figured out. Then I want to go through the transmission and then figure out some brake stuff, and I want to get the bed ripped off, and we'll just see what else we get into, man. Let's get started.
And now, you're watching the 2023. Some of y'all took the New Year's resolution that is New Year, New Me way too far. Channel of YouTube. Welcome to BodeVision.
Hey, so what is up and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me yet again on another video. So we got the dumper and we got the heart of the dumper right here, Chevy small block. So the first thing that I need to do, or the first thing that I want to do, is we have a little problem. We got my alternator and I bought this special bracket for Chevy small block alternator bracket, so that way it's kind of just a standalone bracket because I'm not going to have power steering. The truck has a manual box in it right now and I'm just going to run it how it was. My 1968 F350 was the same exact way and I actually enjoyed driving it like that. It was kind of a more fun driving experience with a big steering wheel, shifting gears, and it's just how I want it. I can change it if I want to. So I don't need the power steering pump, no AC. I might do that vintage AC later on, but I'm not going to be running any of the stuff that came on this motor. So I need to figure out a spot for my alternator. So this kit that I got actually put the alternator right here, which is a little bit goofy. It's way over in this area, which it is what it is. If everything lined up perfectly, I'd have no problem with running it how it was, but this kit isn't designed for this actual alternator, and it could have something to do with my crank pulley itself. There's a big gap from where I need to be and from where I am. It's probably about 2 or 3 inches, meaning the alternator is pushed back 2 or 3 inches from the crank pulley, so that is not going to work. So the first thing that I want to do, let's tear down this bracket, because I think I somewhat have a plan of action of what I want to do. Alright, so from the last clip to right now, I spent a little bit of time to figure out what exactly I want to do. Number one, I don't like this alternator being way over here. I think it looks kind of goofy. So one thing that I figured out is these guys right here are exactly 2 inches apart, and these holes right here on the water pump are also 2 inches apart. So the first thing is, let's move this bracket down. So now we got this guy right here, and that allows me to be so much closer to the crank pulley. If I did something like this, and then I come over here and I check for that, and I'll adjust the camera once I get it all set up, but you can take my word for it right now. So that is all lined up, and all I did was move a bracket, put it from over there to over there. Now we got this guy down here instead of being way up here, and I like that a little bit better, but we have the problem that we need to tension it. So I have this piece. This came with the kit, except I flattened it out. It used to have some kinds of curves and bends in it. So the plan is, since I have this hole for the alternator being used already, we have this hole right here, and I'm going to take this bolt out, and then I'm going to go with this right here. So you can see we have this little tensioner guy right here. I'll probably put it on about like this, and then by the time we get the belt, I can pull it back and you can tighten it or not, whatever you got to do, and that actually makes this distance become larger and smaller so the belt can get tighter or looser. So that works. I'm happy with that. So the alternator, that is one more thing we can knock off the list. I just got my belt, everything's looking good. I just went to the auto parts store, told them what length I needed, we got it. And one thing that I wanted to mention really quickly is you have to make sure when you're doing a setup like this, you have to make sure you're getting a water pump proper for the way that your belts are going to be ran. For example, my water pump is rotating in the same direction as the crank. So clockwise, meaning this is a clockwise rotating water pump, which is a standard rotating water pump. If your belt was going the opposite direction of the crank, that would then be a reverse rotation water pump or a counterclockwise water pump, which is a lot more common on the serpentine belt motors, which is more common today than the standard. So get the water pump according to your setup, and with this setup, nice and simple, we got exactly what we needed. So now what I want to do is I want to get into the transmission, making sure nothing's funky with that. I want to change the fluid, check out the gaskets, replace the gaskets probably, and get that thing right so that way we can stab these two things together. So now that is looking really good, the next thing that I want to focus on is getting the truck into the shop. I cannot do that with the bed being on there, and I have a lot of really cool plans for this bed, but we will get to that in the future. So let's go ahead and get it ripped off and get the truck in there. Now that I got old girl pulled in the shop, I just have a little bit of patch panel work that I need to do. So let's just go ahead and get that knocked out so that way we can get another thing checked off the list. Dude, so after working on this thing for just a minute in the shop, I am realizing how dirty and nasty the frame is back there. Now I want to get to focusing on the brakes, but I don't want to do that until I have a nice clean slate to work on. So let's get the truck back out, get it pressure washed, and then after that we'll get right into the entire brake system of this truck. I'm going to be starting at the front with the brake booster, brand new everything from front to back. All right, so at this point I have my line bent in an orientation that I'm pretty happy with. Now you can always go back and straighten this out a little bit. Mainly I'm just kind of trying to get to A to B. Once you get from A to B, you can go back and clean up that route the rest of the way. So I have my fittings on here. It's super important to put the fittings on before you flare it, because if you forget, you're going to have to cut them off. But it's not the end of the world if you forget. You can just cut it off and redo it. It's really no big deal at all. So let's start by not dropping our fittings. I'll leave that one off for now, so I'll most likely forget, and then I will do this one right here. So I had an older tool that was actually failing on me. It was causing these things to slip out on me, so I just went up to you know, that super cheap local store that sells all the I went to Harbor Freight, dude, and I bought another one. So what you gotta do is you gotta stick your line in the corresponding thing. See, we got 3/16, quarter, the whole thing. And when you're doing brake lines, the kit's going to come with this little button inverting tool right here. So you see how much that's sticking out right there. That should be flush with the bottom of this guy right there for reference. So I'm gonna actually lower it a little bit because it's too high right now. And then with this tool, I like to crank this side down first because that's closer to the line, so you're going to get a lot more leverage further away because, I don't know, Wayne Newton's law of relativity, or I don't know anything about Wayne Newton. And then I like to put it in the vise. My old tool actually went in the vise a little bit better, but all good. This is gonna be just fine for us. And then this is also a good representation, because if you want to just go over to Harbor Freight and get this going for a brake line repair that you're doing, or if you're running them from scratch like what we got going on here, that's pretty good too. So we got this going on right here. We got the little button that we are going to be sticking on the top. This is also deburred. You always got to deburr the threads before you do this. So the button goes right there. And then for our first part of our flaring process, we are going to get in here and then turn this guy down. And this isn't anything that you got to overdo it. I just like to go down to that button. It's flush, making sure it didn't slip out. Again, if it slipped out, you're slipping. So let's get that button out of here. Boom, just like that. And then at this point, it should be nice and fat, looking like that. Putting this there. Then I just bring this down a little bit, not to overdo it. It is possible to overdo it and crack it. If you crack it, you gotta do it again. So I just like to bring it down a little bit, not over cranking it until the point where it looks good. And this, you can take this all apart. All right, and after that, here's how we look. Nice and fat on the top, nice and flared on the middle. Really good. That'll hold, no problem whatsoever. So that's how I flare my brake lines. Relatively simple. It's just one of those things where if it's not going well, step back, redo it, get it figured out, because brakes are not something that you want to mess around with possibly not working. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one knocked out really quickly. Then we'll get this all thrown back on the truck and see what's next for the old dumper. We are trying to get to right here. That's already running from the back. We are just going to tie it in, because to make it one run all the way to the back wouldn't be too much, but I'm just working with what was here already. Here we go, baby. Here's our line that we needed. We didn't interrupt the roll too bad. Roll still looks clean. Now this, I can straighten it out, I can clean it up. I know these guys are supposed to be parallel with one another. That's supposed to be nice and flat. This wonky should be nice and straight. I'll just clean it up in the vise a little bit. Now I'm not squeezing in the vise at all, I just kind of have the jaws so far open from one another, and that kind of just helps me get in there and manipulate it. I know the lighting right now probably looks terrible, but bear with me. Man, so with working on this truck, with what we got going on, we got the brakes, but I'm waiting on a few parts just to finish everything to connect some of the dots. I might end up wanting to redo some of these lines. Well, one of them anyways, I think is a little bit bent and a little bit funny. This one up here turned out really good. This lower one, I don't know. I may run it a different direction, or either way, we'll figure it out. I got the tools to do it, and if I want to take the time to redo them, I can do that. It's funny, by the time you get done doing a project, if you were to restart it, you have so much more skills going into it because you just worked on that. You can tell this line up here, I did it towards the end. It looks real good. This lower one was the first one that I made, and it looks a little bit funky, but we can figure that out. We can change it if we want to. Again, I'm just waiting on some parts for that. And then we got back here, I pulled apart the drums. I thought I'd be able to get everything locally, but I am not going to be able to. We are waiting on parts again, which is all good. It's on me. I should have ordered some of the stuff knowing that I wanted to do this. In reality, it'd be good if I had all the parts waiting, but we'll get there. I thought I was going to do a rear disc conversion with this, but that'd be like $1,500 to $2,000 if I wanted to do the entire thing. So my approach right now is I'm just going to make everything work exactly as it should from factory. Hopefully it's good. I don't think I'm going to be towing too often with this thing, even though I plan on towing with it. So if I want to change the front out to disc or disc all the way around, I can definitely do that. But as far as phase one goes and just getting the truck going and getting it on the road so that way I can start using it as a good work truck, we are just going to keep that as is. And with the power booster, all new everything, I think it should be all right. So the next thing that we got going on is we have a bunch of rust that needs to be fixed. The bottom of both fenders are going to be cut out. The bottom half of this door, I'm gonna cut it out. The door over there, the entire thing needs to be reskinned. We also have cab corners that I'm going to be cutting out and replacing, and I want to get all that knocked out before I do the sound deadening on the inside. After the sound deadening comes wiring. The wiring is going to be done, then the motor is going to go in, so on and so forth. And what I'm really looking forward to is putting my touch on this truck. We are going to be doing something really cool. You know, I can't just leave the finish. I don't know yet if we're going to be buffing it out, blending it, patina-ing it, full painting it. We will see. I have a cool plan and I cannot wait to show you all of that. So if you could, down below, leave a comment. Let me know that your uncle would have did a better job on every single thing that I'm doing, because that's how it goes, and I will see you on that next one. Thank you so much for watching. I'm out.